All right, today is primary day in New York City with far-left Democratic Socialists on the ticket across multiple elections.
Solidarity, it doesn't end at the Hudson or at the Potomac. Our solidarity stretches out to Cuba and Venezuela, and it stretches to Gaza.
The stakes are high. We know that. We have fascists in the White House. We have racist and transphobe in the White House. And we've got billionaires and oligarchs and bosses and corporations who have led us to this point.
She hit all the key trigger words in there.
Right.
Good for her.
All
She
in
checked
one.
them off her list. One of those far-left Democrats, Brad Lander, is running against Dan Goldman to represent New York's 10th congressional district. Congressman Goldman was recently banned from a New York City coffee shop for his pro-Israel views. Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Harmeet Dillon responding to this ban, writing on X, quote, "Federal law prohibits public accommodations, such as coffee shops, from discriminating against patrons based on their race, religion, or national origin. These actions
none of
are
that.
not only reprehensible, they're potentially illegal."
Yeah,
The Civil
none of
Rights
that is
Division
actually
has
why
opened
he
an
got banned.
investigation and will bring an enforcement action if warranted.
Can you believe that happening right here in the United States? Joining us now to react, senior writer for the Washington Examiner and Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, we're absolutely going to get to that coffee shop situation in just a moment. But first, it is primary day here in New York City, and Mayor Mamdani has been campaigning, has backed 3 Democrat Socialist candidates. And this is being viewed as a tipping point, because even if one of those socialists unseats a sitting member of Congress, it will show a major weakness within the party establishment. And the concern among both establishment Democrats and Republicans is that it shifts the entire party to the left, the Democrat Party to the left, and the national conversation as well. What say you about this?
Yeah, what's the concern for Republicans? I'm confused.
Let's be clear, is a takeover right now by socialists in New York City and other cities around the country. Every poll out there, when we talk about Dan Goldman, for the example, as the incumbent, he'll probably be defeated by 20 points or better by Brad Lander, his opponent. Lander is supported by Zohra Mamdani, as you see on your screen. He is the new kingmaker of New York City. If a Democrat socialist mayor and a Democratic socialist, by the way, that should be an oxymoron when you really think about a Democratic socialist. But when this mayor endorses a candidate, that candidate is going to win, and it's going to win easily, quite frankly, especially in this case, if a Jew like Dan Goldman is a supporter of Israel. Mamdani himself has said that if Bibi Netanyahu sets foot in New York City, he will immediately arrest him under the guise of war crimes. Brad Lander, Goldman's opponent, has accused Israel of committing genocide and has called Israel an apartheid state. And in New York City, this kind of rhetoric...
I'm sorry. Is Joe Concha Jewish? I can't be the only one a little disturbed by how hard he hit that Jew, right? No, Brad Lander is Jewish, yes, but I'm talking about when he hit that hard... He hit that hard J. He hit that way harder than I thought. He put some extra stank on it, right? He's like a Jew like Dan Goldman. Another case of people who are pro-Israel. You know, once again, people who are pro-Israel behaving like they themselves are more Jewish than even other Jewish people.
That's what wins you elections these days, despite a massive Jewish population, Carly and Todd. Yeah, those 3 candidates that are running today, that are Democratic Socialists, they're going to win. And it's because Mamdani wants them to win. And it's because this is the way things work now in New York City, in places like Seattle, in places like Washington, D.C. And one by one, cities will fall in this country as a result of socialism taking over, because that party, the Democratic Socialist Party, is far better organized, has a lot more money, and has the energy behind it right now.
Well, let's drill down into the coffee shop incident, because what does it say about the state of the Democrats, but also the state of our nation as a whole, that one of their most far-left congressmen, in Dan Goldman, I mean, he's about as far left as you can get, isn't far left enough for some in the deep blue enclave of Brooklyn, where this coffee shop incident happened?
Todd, great question. I think the problem with Dan Goldman is that he is seen as establishment. And establishment means status quo. Status quo means the system is not working. And there are so many out there right now, especially young voters, who believe that because of their state right now, where they don't believe they can achieve the American dream, they blame the system. The system needs to be taken down. Some people want to watch the world burn, I believe is the old line from The Dark Knight. And right now, there are many people out there in places like New York City, the kind that go to primary voting centers anyway, that say, you know what, burn it down, let's start over, let's go with socialism, maybe because of all the free stuff they're promising, maybe my life will be better. So it's the victimhood here that Democrat socialists are preying on, and it's working right now, Todd. So yeah, Dan Goldman.
Bro, this message is a gift, by the way. And it's also a taste. It's a taste of what the opposition has if you run on a Democratic Socialist ticket. When you run on a Democratic Socialist ticket, these guys literally have nothing else. Just an acknowledgement that the situation is dire as far as like people's personal financial circumstances. And then, all they want is free shit. If you think this attitude will win a national campaign for the Republicans, you are delusional. Okay? Oh, your opponent wants free shit. That sucks. They have no plan. They have no plan to combat this movement. All they can do is maybe concede. Hold on. Quit dodging cutie Cinderella. All I ever see this guy doing is stuffing his face and watching TV. We're calling this a job now. This ain't Chubby Bunny. Finish chewing, sweetie. That's crazy. I just got back from canvassing, okay? Calling my ass out like this.
The guy who said that Donald Trump should be, quote, eliminated, unquote. Well, yeah, that guy, as far left as you said, yeah, he's going to lose, Carly.
Joe, I want to squeeze this in here because on this very topic, here's Joy Reid talking about her views on Democrats with ties to Israel.
The Democratic Party is as married to this Israel over everything, Israel no matter what, Israel no matter what they do, no matter how many people they kill. The Democrats were as married to that as the Republicans. But to me, I, going forward, cannot vote for a Democrat who does not pledge to end this relationship.
She's got a platform, and she said what she said. Your thoughts, Joe?
Yeah, platform from, I guess that's her living room. She was fired from MSNBC. It was really hard to do. I'll be quick here, guys. It's great to hear from the unemployed Joy Reid, who said during a recent podcast that no black people that she knows will also celebrate the 4th of July.
You know what's crazy about this? Big Dog. She's in independent media. She has her own channel now. You know who else did that? Kash Patel. He's now the FBI director. It's so funny to just like act as though it's a downgrade to leave MSNBC, to get fired from MSNBC. It's fine. And then to have your own media endeavor.
Why? Because America is still a country that is profoundly racist and embraces slavery, because that's how an insane person speaks. But in regards to Israel, this is the new position of the Democrat Party, unless you're a guy like John Fetterman, who's a lone wolf out there, bash Israel, even go so far to say it shouldn't exist, and that gets you power, that gets you clicks and likes on social media, and it's incredible that this is the same party that is embracing a guy who had a Nazi tattoo on his chest for 20 years. That is their mascot at this point, and that's the direction of the party. And I think nationally, it's going to be a big, big problem for them. They win in New York. They will not win nationally or in swing states. That I do know, Carly.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
No, definitely.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, guys.
Definitely. Famously, swing state voters are like, oh my God, can you give more of my tax dollars to Israel, please? Famously, swing state voters are like, please, I have unlimited appetite. Hold on. Joe Concha doesn't carry the flame. He does not.
At our top story, the far left wing of the Democrat Party is hitting the streets of New York ahead of tomorrow's primaries, trying to get out the vote, get their last words counted. Those candidates, all with a New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani endorsement, and they are looking to ride his coattails to the state assembly and Capitol Hill. If they win, they plan to bring the Democrat Socialists of America ultra-progressive agenda along with them, and they say other states may fall to socialism like dominoes. Well, this is Outnumbered. I'm Harris Faulkner, here with my co-host Emily Campagno.
Harris Faulkner, and we are outnumbered by Democratic Socialists. And it's terrifying. Lemau, now the reflecting fool fences say danger explosives? Wait, what? Fencing installed nearby the reflecting pool with sign reading danger explosives. The fencing is set up close to the World War II memorial, a solar-powered mobile surveillance unit placed next to the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C. Oh my God. Okay, well, every day we got to get another update from the reflecting pool, and I'm glad we are. I'm glad we're getting another reflecting pool gate update. It is legitimately my favorite story. I'm sorry. It's awesome. I never thought that I would be so locked in on a story. I never thought I'd be so locked in on a story that, like, your grandparents are also, if they're watching MSNBC, are also locked in on. But it's the gift that keeps on giving. Every day there's a new up that's even funnier than the last.
Also joining us today, Martha McCallum, anchor and executive editor of The Story and co-anchor of Fox News election coverage. Kaylee McGee-White, Fox News contributor, and David Webb is here, Fox News contributor and fantastic radio host too. Daria Lisa Chevalier, Brad Lander, and Claire Valdez are all either affiliated with or were affiliated with the Democrat Socialists of America, DSA. And they have been spreading the divisive ideas along the campaign trail. Watch.
You know, the difference here really is I'm a Democratic Socialist. I'm very proud to be running as that. I'm a proud union organizer. And I think being able to organize a movement is essential in this moment when we have a fascist in the White House.
We can put our bodies in the way of the deportation machine. Because we want to abolish and because we want housing.
We've got a fascist in the White House. We've got rogue ICE agents in our streets. And we've got billionaires trying to buy our elections.
I don't think any of them has a dictionary. Not one. Mamdani said this election cycle slate of candidates was his answer to the state of the Democrat Party, and other DSA-backed candidates are gaining traction in races across the country. And many of their ads echo the same anti-police, anti-Israel, anti-capitalist rhetoric that some political analysts say has become the new rallying cry of the left. Yeah, are they starting to outnumber the people who call themselves regular Democrats? The Wall Street Journal editorial board warning this: these races and others across the country reflect the potent organizing of the DSA and the left-wing march of young progressive voters.
They're so scared.
Their goal is to turn the Democrat Party even farther left than it has moved since Bill Clinton. Win or lose on Tuesday, the DSS agenda is gaining among Democrats. David Webb, I mean, not this group, but the one in Maine, has a Nazi tattoo that's been covered up by some other ink. But they call everybody else. They call Donald Trump. They call Republicans fascists. They don't even know the meaning of the word.
It's not just the dictionary that they don't care to use. They probably own one. I don't really care. They can look it up online. These so-called socialists, democratic socialists or otherwise, they yell fascism. They argue against capitalism, but they want us to ignore the reality. 200 years ago, 94% or so of the planet.
I'm sorry, what? They want us to ignore the reality. It's literally the reality that people are suffering. That's the reality. It's also one that, like, it's a reality that people recognize. Like, it's a reality that even Fox News is forced to reckon with. What the fuck's this guy talking about 200 years ago?
Lived in some form of poverty. Today, after a capitalist nation, America, we're getting into our 250th birthday, and the rise and the expansion of capitalist and free market enterprises around the world, the growth of a global economy, over 1 billion people were lifted out of that, and billions.
No, you're not allowed to say that. You can't eat China's. You can't be taking credit for Chinese accomplishments, buddy, while making an argument for capitalism. That's crazy. Trump sees the left surging. Trump on Governor Josh Shapiro's prospects, he's going to be forced to the left. Otherwise, he's not going to get the nomination. God, Trump is such a good room reader. It's kind of funny. He still got it a little bit.
More live in, yes, marginal but better circumstances. That didn't come from socialism or communism, but if you contrast that with whether it's 80 million to 100 or 110 million that have been displaced, murdered by socialism and communism, or otherwise destroyed as societies were, the trajectory is remarkably different. When you go from abject poverty in parts of the world 200 years ago, and you have 100 years of communism, think of the change in the globe. That is fact. It is not debatable. Maybe the numbers are a little bit different, but it is not debatable that the evils of socialism and communism are far outweighed by the benefits of capitalism and the betterment of lives and the evolution of societies.
Yeah, you know, Martha, it makes me, and I looked into this over the weekend. I don't know of a socialist regime that actually was better for the people. Like, there's no place on the planet that we tout and go, man, that socialism really worked.
No, it tends to dissolve into authoritarianism and tyranny eventually.
You're a Fox News commentator. You're a Fox News commentator. 90% of your advocacy revolves around authoritarianism and tyranny without the high-speed rail. You literally go on television every day. Also, every single out and about socialist regime has dramatically improved the material conditions of the working class, of the respective nations, especially when adjusted to their starting position, right? Like, for example, Tsarist Russia, an agrarian society with no industrial base whatsoever, in the aftermath of the revolution became a massive competitive superpower. It defeated the Nazis, and then it beat the United States to the space race. It's not even comparable. Okay? Same with Cuba. So many of the socialist revolutionary-led movements in Africa were anti-colonial movements. Vietnam is another great example of this. You can deny it all day, every day, but China's economy is plausibly at least 17% larger than the U.S. economy in 2025, according to Paul Krugman. This is, of course, when you adjust the GDP, because the Chinese GDP obviously is still limited in its size because it's, the Chinese currency is devalued as opposed to the dollar.
Acknowledged, realized that we were no longer unambiguously the world's biggest economy. So, before any of this happened, China had already overtaken us in terms of any kind of purchasing power basis, and was pretty close even on a dollar basis. And our power in world trade was never as great as we thought. We thought of ourselves as the indispensable nation, and we were not. And this is the stage onto which Trump walked. What is true and did not have to happen, I think, is the destruction of our alliances. I mean, that was, if there was a signature thing, a signature virtue of the Pax Americana, it was that we really did have allies. We had a lot of countries that trusted us to behave, not always great, but to honor our agreements, to basically have mostly benign intent. And it turns out that that is the biggest target. If you look at Trump rants about everybody, but if you look at the people around him, look at J.D. Vance, what he seems to have is an especial hatred for Europe. It's actually the countries with which we have the most in common, or we did. The countries that really exemplify the values that we were supposed to stand for: democracy, open society. Those are the ones that attract the most ire. And I vacillate between how much is this deep roots, how much of this is just a particular gang that, owing to the craziness of the U.S. constitutional system.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sure. That's what we'll do. Yeah.
Examples here of Mayor Mamdani suggesting that property should be retaken by the government, by the city of New York. This gives you an inkling of where this usually heads. Most of these individuals are on the younger side. I don't know how much they have actually seen of real history play out, where socialism has led to authoritarianism. And when they look at this government, you know, and call it fascist, I would encourage them to actually dig a little bit below the surface and understand, when you watch this process, you watch the times that the judges have stepped in front of what President Trump wanted to do, when Congress has stepped in front of what he wanted to do. He gets a lot of what he wants, but you see our structure at work here. And in terms of billionaires, they keep yelling at billionaires. You know, I look at the schools that Mamdani went to Bowdoin, right? Graham Plattner is a prep school graduate himself. So they have benefited from people donating to these institutions that they went to in the cities that they live in, where philanthropists have, you know, built hospitals and operas and, you know, all sorts of cultural institutions that these people, you know, tend to really love and gravitate to. I would love to see what happens to all those in a socialist society.
Yeah, now when you're talking about the young people and how they don't know, they don't have to live in a socialist country. They could read about it. Like, you know, education. Kaylee?
Well, it is true that I think the Wall Street Journal also hits the nail on the head when they say that it is younger, more progressive voters who are really driving the energy behind the far left right now. Among young voters in particular, the Democratic Socialists of America has a double-digit higher approval rating than the Democratic Party itself. We saw this with Zoran here in New York. Many of his voters were younger voters in my generation, Gen Z. And the reason why I don't think that we should underestimate this is because of what you guys are talking about, the disconnect in reality among younger voters who genuinely lack the historical context to recognize that many of the promises of socialism are in fact false. And I think it's important to highlight just how radical some of these candidates actually are. Chevalier, in particular, running for Congress here in New York, was asked 4 times by the New York editorial board about her support for prison abolition, which is essentially that she doesn't believe that any people should be in jail and that we just shouldn't have prisons at all. She refused to answer the question 4 times and instead offered up some nonsense how, well, if the social conditions were just right, then maybe people wouldn't commit murder at all.
It's going to be in the green room.
The fact that she believes in abolishing prisons is actually less extreme than the fact that she thinks she could just simply eliminate murder by improving the social conditions. It's completely disconnected from reality, and they have no actual realistic policy on how they would implement this at all. It's just a bunch of nonsense. But it is important for us to highlight because we are going to have to push back. We're going to have to push back and win back over young voters, back to common sense and back to the facts.
Well, one way, and Emily, you and I talk about faith in the program a lot, one way to reach them is through faith. I mean, we are seeing an explosion of faith in the world and in our country. And to have a conversation that's based on, you know, spirituality from a loving, because I think this is a spiritual battle that we're in.
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that is the antidote to raise more young people of faith and to have more children and raise good people, right? That really is the antidote, because we're essentially combating what is, yes, spiritual warfare, but we're down in numbers. I'll say this, have you ever been maybe out too far a little bit in the water when the tide comes up? The point is, it doesn't come at you in a linear line. It all of a sudden rises all around you. And I think for people that seem to be surprised by the Democratic Socialists of America or the socialist identity being all of a sudden surrounding us, have not been seeing the forest for the trees in the past few years. And I bring that up to say that this is the predictable evolution and result of what was an orchestrated endeavor by our enemies and also the communists to install professors at college campuses and in high schools, and now of our really littles, to carry that communist regime, to carry the socialist regime, to whitewash what happened in World War II and World War I and the like.
And 9/11.
And 9/11. And I know that we have all traveled to those countries that are still dealing with the dire effects of a socialist government, true installed socialist government, decades ago. It doesn't just evaporate overnight. So it used to be that just before elections, you would see people come to the middle to try to attract the more moderate, which seemed to be more common. Now we are seeing the opposite, where they're being fish-hooked to the left, because that is what has risen all around us, while many Americans were sleeping, not realizing that their kids were being educated and the schools were gravitating toward that, and that Soros was funding all of this. So now all of Congress and all of these progressive candidates, you're right, Harris, they outnumber the regular Democrats, because that is the Democrat now. In fact, maybe we should stop saying the qualifier Democratic. They are just socialists,
They're just
and that means Democrat.
Well, and I think sliding into communism, forgive me one second, David, because I want to hit on what you said. This sounds like the moment just before Hitler moved in. Because Jews were told, you know, so first they...
Marge is laughing. Marge is laughing at why it's so funny, huh? It's funny. It is just like the moment before Hitler moved in. Actually, what are you doing over there? Oh, okay. We have because they're waiting for us downstairs. What's the address we should go to? Yeah, Hitler, famously a communist, famously a socialist communist, the scariest kind. And Night of the Long Knives, socialist infighting. Typical. Typical socialist infighting. Who could forget the principled socialist tenet of creating race laws? When you put it like that, it does seem quite similar to maybe not socialism, but a different modern example. Denaturalizing and deporting people, putting them in concentration camps on the basis of their race, targeting them on the basis of their race. Which modern American political movement closely resembles that? Yeah, we're the hysterical ones when we say this is Nazi. What? I took the mic off. Hello, hello, hello? Is it picking up? Okay, good. Oh my God, they're not responding. I'm losing my mind. Okay.
They were to wear the star. First, they were to give over parts of their business. It was like the mob taking over, and it seemed to be very slow. And then the next thing you know, they're being marched out of their homes and put in holding camps at first, and then and then it got worse and worse and worse. And the problem with that is, I love your analogy, is that tide just rises. It doesn't come into shore where you can run from it. It's all around you.
Just to be quick and to add to what you said, this is an organized strategy. Neville Roy Singham, Jody Evans living in Shanghai, right? He's a communist agent, but he's...
Neville Roy Singham. I thought saying other people doing Nazi fascist things is violent or whatever they chirp about, lol. Yes, but only if it's... Listen, there's only one group of Nazis. Okay? There's only one group of fascist Nazis in this country, and those are the anti-fascist communists. Okay? And when they actually correctly call a Nazi, well, that's actually advocacy for violence. You're basically demanding that violent things happen to this person. But when a fascist adjacent person or a defender of fascism turns around and calls a socialist anti-fascist a fascist Nazi, then it's appropriate. Okay? It's good. And more of it should happen. These are the rules. That's just how it works on Fox News. Upside down world. It's fantastic.
An American citizen. Tom Steyer made his money in the markets in billions. The Chinese Communist Party 1,000 Talents program, the Chinatown strategy that Mao Zedong started. This is an organized strategy against free societies, not just against America. Richmond, California, I want everyone to look that city of 116,000 up.
That's where I went to school.
Because their progressivism and socialism is coming to bear, and if Chevron leaves those shores, that's the end of a small American city. It's not just New York, Seattle, and others, but it's an organized strategy. It's important that everyone look this up and learn what's really going on here.
So who wins?
I mean, I'm just thinking about what you said about faith and, people having other things to turn to rather than government, right? And that's really...
I had to do a quick smell check to see if my pitties are all right, but I'm just gonna rip it to that direction because we're gonna be super late now. You know what I mean? Oh wait, never mind. They just gave me something. Is there anything there? Can you look up in your phone anything near that location so that I can ping to call the? Yes, it's so annoying, but. They just gave cross route or whatever the fuck, which is let chat sniff. Second meetup happen. Yes, I'm going up. I'm going uptown. It's just that I had to get some food and go back to doing a little bit of coverage, and then we're gonna go up. Okay, you got a location there, but yeah, we're meeting up with Ryan Grimm and Brace Belden. Kid Merrow's already up there. Kid Merrow's already uptown. He went directly to uptown. Brace Belden and Ryan Grimm in the building. However, we are going to be headed uptown. But here, let's hear what Mark Levin had to say real quick.
I want to say to people in and out of the administration, stop trashing, smearing, bullying the little state of Israel.
It's a tiny nation. Why does nobody care about how tiny of a nation Israel is? It's so little. You need to stop bullying the little nation of Israel. You could just hang out with your boys, man. No need to film. Dog, what the are you talking about? It's literally the New York election that I've spent the last 2 months on. We're going to go to a election party. Also, his pins are getting larger.
Stop cozying up to and telling us that the enemy regime in Iran is now more rational, more moderate, and a regime that we can deal with. When just a few months ago they slaughtered 50,000 people, they're still hanging young people today. And if they had a nuclear missile today, they'd fire it into our country as sure as I'm alive.
All right, you got it? Did you text me an address? Oh, okay.
But if people think they can bully a little country, really a people that have existed 4,000 years, through the Babylonians and the Persians,
through the
Romans and the Third Reich, into surrendering their defense and their decision on how to secure their country, they got another thing coming. I want to say to people in and out of the administration, stop.
Dude, that's awesome. Okay.
One of the seeds and the structures of Marxism is to alienate families as leadership and to have the government.
These guys know so much about socialism, Marxism, communism,
whether it's housing or your job or your education or anything. And that is your faith, right? Your faith is in government rather than in whatever you choose it to be in terms of the spiritual life. So, all of these things, somebody who just tuned into Fox and has never watched before, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I would expect them to say. But these are realities. These are historically based, and history repeats itself. So you see these movements. There have been many movements towards Democrat socialism or socialism, pushing up against the tide of the United States over all of our history in different moments. And it is back here again, and people are going to have to take a close look at it and decide what kind of future they want to have.
Well, I tell you what, it makes 2026 midterms and 28 presidential, it puts a huge focus on who we don't want to be and what it takes not to become that.